Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm starting the video today actually needing to give my head a wobble. Somebody said to me this morning, "You're getting too thin." Now, for the vast majority of my life, people have told me I'm too fat. And I used to feel quite hurt by that comment. And I was actually equally hurt this morning that somebody should think they had the right to judge me as too thin. I think it's a bit different from when people told me I was too fat, because I actually knew I was too fat. I knew I had a problem, I knew I needed to address it, and I knew that I wasn't willing to address it. But having addressed that problem over a lengthy period now, and to actually be living in what I call recovery from eating disorders and compulsive eating and everything, to have somebody tell me I'm too thin, did it hurt? Did it make me angry? Let's say it's a good job we were in company, because I might have just let rip. And I'm not good at letting rip, but I ought to be better. But it's left me in a state where I actually really feel like I need to give my head a wobble and say to myself, come on Jane, you're better than this. You are not what other people think of you. It's about what you think about yourself. And I'm comfortable in my body today. I feel healthy, I feel great. And I'm not going to have people put me down by telling me I'm either too fat or too thin. Because at the end of the day, if I'm wearing a hat, you might not like it. If I'm wearing a hat, you might like it. What do? Keep the hat on, take it off. So I've come to a place in my life where I'm actually thinking, you know what, Jane? Please yourself. Don't worry about pleasing other people. And I just needed to share that with you. Been to group this morning, excellent group. It was a Diamond Award. We have quite a lot of Diamond members in our group, and a lovely lady called Linda. A lovely woman called Linda is what I was trying to say. Actually got the award. She was 2 years as a Diamond member this week, and she's done really well on her journey and never been out of target, either the top end or the bottom end. She really deserves the award. Me, what have I done this week? Because that's what I'm here to say really, aren't I? I have had a brilliant week on plan. Love this lifestyle, you know that by now I think. I have had 4 healthy extras every day this week. I've averaged 8 sins, and this morning I lost a pound. Happy with that. I'm half a pound within the bottom of my target, so I do need to rein it in a bit. But I don't know what to rein in a bit, because the way I eat is so spot on plan for me, and I'm so comfortable with it and I enjoy it so much that, what do I rein in? What do I change? Why do I need to change anything? Maybe just consider having another healthy extra, because I find that more comfortable than having more sins. And the reason I find it more comfortable than having more sins is something that Lynn Rich highlighted a couple of videos ago in the comments, when she said, I had suggested that people could swap out 6 sins for a healthy extra B, and Lynn actually said, this actually would help people to choose healthy options, spending their sins or the healthy extras on healthy options. And I find that for me, if I'm going to say I'll have another healthy extra, whether it's an A or B, that sits more comfortably with me than saying, well, I'll spend 5 sins or 6 sins on a Freddo or a packet of crisps. I don't, there's my talking clock again, I don't function on that kind of food today. So it was a really good group. We had some excellent losses, slightly lower in numbers because of course we're hitting the summer, and there's always a bit of a lull in Slimming World in the summer. I think January, September, when we get the big numbers, and it can drop a bit, but it was still a big group, still a very positive group. So, very enjoyable. I'll tell you a little story about something that happened to me this week, and it is relevant because it's relevant in my lifestyle, and what I'm here to talk about is only really my lifestyle. The way I work Slimming World, the way Slimming World works for me, the reason I choose to do things the way I do, the reason I don't choose to do other things. I'm not here to say this is the way anybody else should do it, because you're not me. And even if somebody else did exactly what I do, the likelihood is they wouldn't get the same results that I get, because we live a different lifestyle, we live in a different body, our bodies function differently. But I've lost my train of thought now. Oh yeah, I was going to tell you a story about something that happened to me this week. I walked into the lounge on Wednesday evening and I had a large mug of coffee, quite a large mug of coffee, and let's say the coffee ended up on the carpet and not in the mug, right in the middle of my lounge carpet. And I don't know if you can see on this video the colour of my carpet. Can you, Joe? Does it? Does it
Slightly in the background.
It's a light coloured carpet and it's pure wool. And so to have a big mug of coffee spread across the middle of it wasn't a good idea. So this is a little story about the dearest cup of coffee in Nottingham. It cost me £108 yesterday to get the coffee stain out of my carpet, which beat replacing the carpet at £60 a square metre. But the reason I'm telling you this is because I didn't eat over it. You know, I've shared before in my vlogs, I'm the woman who used to eat if the light bulb blue because I felt sorry for myself. I actually didn't eat over this. I would have eaten because I'd been upset at myself because I actually spilled. Are you okay, Joe?
Sorry, I'm going to get flies in.
I was trying to close the window, that's all. I'm pleased with myself because I didn't eat over it. The old me would have eaten over it because I spilt the coffee. It was an accident, but it was still something that I'd done. I would have blamed myself for that, and that would have been a good enough reason for me to get a downer on myself, for me to eat over it. And the other thing I would have eaten over was the fact that it cost me so much to properly get the stain out of a wall carpet. I would have been angry at wasting money. And today, although I'm not happy about having to spend that money, I'm actually not angry with myself. And then the emotions don't rise up in me and I don't have to pick up the food to push those feelings back down again. So it's a massive non-scale victory for me because I actually am reacting so differently again. Not even thinking about eating over it, just dealing with the problem and moving on. And that was, yeah, a really big thing for me this week. I have mentioned in my videos before about the fact that some years ago I belonged to a 12-step program, and most people will have heard of Alcoholics Anonymous. I actually belong to Overeaters Anonymous. I know it has the anonymous tag, but I am at liberty to share my membership of an anonymous organisation. I'm just not at liberty to share anybody else's. They have a right to their anonymity, so that's how it works. So I'm not actually speaking out of turn by sharing this with you. But when I was in the depth of eating disorders and mainly compulsive overeating, because I didn't know any other way, I didn't know a better way, I joined this organisation, and they work on spiritual principles, and joining OA was what brought me back to my Christian faith. Now, I'm not telling you this story to sell Christianity to anybody. I'm not here to do that. But I needed to find something outside of myself that could help me to deal with my problems with food, because within myself all I knew how to do was many, many years of overeating. Now, when you come to a 12-step program, the first step is I admitted I had a problem with food, that my life had become unmanageable. Now, my life around food was totally unmanageable. Food was my total obsession. I lived to eat, basically, and when I wasn't awake, I dreamt about it. And when I was awake, all I thought about was the next mouthful, not the current mouthful. I never enjoyed what I was currently eating. I was always too focused on the next mouthful. I had a very, very unhealthy relationship with food. But because of Overeaters Anonymous and because of many years of counselling and the initial decision to have a gastric band, which I've talked about in other videos, and somebody did ask the question today, this week, about, you know, do I still have a gastric band? Yes, I still do. You don't have them taken out. You pay £7,000 to have it put in, and then you can literally have it loosened. So you're not relying on it. if anybody would like me ever to make a video answering questions about gastric bands, I'm happy to do that as far as my experience is concerned. I can only speak about my use in the early days with a gastric band. I don't actually have a lot of faith in gastric bands. I would never advise anybody to have one. I think that's something you have to go to a professional to find out. And if I'm perfectly honest, if I had fully realised what a gastric band would mean in my life, I probably wouldn't have gone down that road. Having said that, I'm grateful for the help it gave me in the early days, and I will always be grateful to my surgeon, wonderful man. But because of what I've learned in the last 7 years, I realise for me today that addressing this in a spiritual way and dealing with a lot of the issues that cause me to overeat has been a magnificent tool, a bigger tool than a gastric band. Because whatever I had the gastric band and still had the problems that I was eating over and punishing myself for and resenting and regretting, I was never moving forward. Until I started to be prepared to deal with the issues that caused me to overeat and caused a lot of my problems, and to forgive people in my life and also forgive myself for a lot of the things I'd done, I wasn't ever going to move to the place I am today. So I've taken this journey literally one day at a time, because that's what the 12-step principles of Overeaters Anonymous taught me. And I still live this life one day at a time, because that has become my lifestyle. So my lifestyle today is to take this journey, this life, the only life I've got, one day at a time, and to stick to plan. Now, something I want to address, which again might raise up disagreement in people, and that's fine. I am really troubled when people say everybody needs to take time off. Everybody needs to quit this program for a while, quit this plan for a while and do something different, to kick their body into this, or to have a life, or to cope with life, or to deal with things. For me, I find the actual opposite is true. If I was to take time off this plan, that is when my problems will start all over again. Because I'm powerless, and that's another thing the 12-step program teaches you, that you are powerless over anything else in your life that's happening. I am powerless over what's happening in my life and to the people around me, but I am not powerless over the choices I make around food. And because I have the power to say no today, and actually say no to myself and that greedy voice inside of myself, I actually think that's why I can live at Target. Getting to Target is hard enough, and people who are on a weight loss journey will appreciate that. Staying at Target, I believe today, is, I don't want to say it's harder. It isn't easier than getting to Target. It isn't harder. It's just very challenging and very different, but very worth it. So I'm glad I'm at Target, I'm grateful to be here. But to stay here, I have got to live this plan every day. If I start taking time off because I can't be bothered, or because stuff's happening, or because life gets in the way, or because, as some people say, you've got to have a life, haven't you? If I start doing any of that, I am going to struggle. I'm going to make life hard for myself. And I've taken another 7 days, and that's what I'm talking about this week, of practicing the principles of this Slimming World plan 100%, and actually choosing to live on plan. And I am so relieved by the amount of stress it takes out of my life. But it's only doing that that is going to keep me where I'm at. I could say, sod it, I'm going to have a week off plan. And I'll tell you something without any exaggeration, I'd be £10 heavier by next Saturday. Why would I want to do that to myself? For all the years I tormented and tortured myself with abusive behaviour around food and overeating, Why would I want to take time off the freedom I've found to go back to doing that again? Do I just want to prove that that really does work if you want to put weight on? When I was talking to somebody in the week about this, and she was saying, it doesn't do any harm to take a week or two off now and then. It might not do her any harm. It would do me a lot of harm. And my answer to her was very much, tell that to an alcoholic. Because I take my addiction to sugar as serious, and my addiction to other foods, but mainly sugar, as seriously as anybody who's in recovery from alcoholism would take their addiction to alcohol. When I first came to Slimming World and hadn't properly addressed my issues around sugar, I used to say, I am a chocoholic. I live on chocolate. What I realised today, looking back with hindsight, and we all know hindsight's a wonderful thing, is my problem is not chocolate. My problem is sugar. So although I thought I was addicted to chocolate, it wasn't the cacao in chocolate I was addicted to, it was the sugar. And when I look back on how my food has changed in the 2 years that I've been in Slimming World, I realise that steadily and slowly, without too much conscious effort, I have moved right away from a high sugar diet to what I would call today a moderately low sugar diet. But it's because my taste has changed. And I know today that I can eat chocolate. I could eat chocolate on this plan every day if I wanted to. We've got chocolate in the house, Joe, haven't we?
Yeah.
There's 2 bars of chocolate in the house at the moment. How long have they been here?
Weeks, couple of weeks.
No, more than that. More like a month or more, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. It doesn't bother me. I don't need it today. I needed it in the past. Now today I can choose to have it. I can choose to leave it in the cupboard until I want it. That for me is a massive step forward from the girl who could not get out of bed in the morning without the knowledge that there was chocolate in the house and I could pick it up for breakfast if I wanted to, and I generally did. And I could not get through the day without eating chocolate 4, 5, 6, 7 times. And I used to rely on chocolate cake and chocolate biscuits. I was the queen of the chocolate digestive. Never had one, always had a packet. And not that packet, this packet, the big long packet. And today, because of this plan and because of eating what I call the old-fashioned way, cooking proper dinners and things, and actually moderating my sugar levels, I don't have the craving for sugar that I used to have. Joe tells me about the bacteria in my gut. Well, how it will have changed, because I used to have a heavy overload of bacteria in my gut that was fed on sugar. Because I didn't feed it so much sugar, the other bacteria would have got stronger. So the bacteria in my gut now is not the kind of bacteria that's crying out for sugar. In the early days, when I thought I had a chocolate problem, I would try and white knuckle it and quit the chocolate, but I was still eating all the other stuff. Or I was still loading everything up with some form of sugar. And I mean, if I asked Joe, he could probably list us a whole load of words that actually mean sugar. So what would I have chosen to do back then? I would have probably chosen to stop putting sugar in my coffee, which I did, because I always had at least 2 heaped teaspoons in every cup of coffee that I had, and I have plenty of coffee. So that was one of my choices back then. But then I might have chosen to replace that with other forms of sugar. So subconsciously or consciously, because I tend to be, quite a controlling person, consciously I was always feeding the sweet tooth in me. And I would have done that by, back then, not now, adding things like syrups and artificial sweeteners. So as part of my journey, I've actually, and again, it wasn't a conscious effort, I actually stopped all of that as well. So I don't do the sweet freedom things, and I don't do saccharins and different forms of liquid sweeteners and things, because all it did was feed in me the need for sweetness. Now I have a very normal relationship with sweet foods. I can take them or I can leave them. And sometimes I choose to take something, like, I like my scones and things like that. But most of the time, I actually choose not to. And it's not hard. because my gut bacteria is not crying out for sugar. And I'll tell you something else which ladies will probably relate to. I used to have dreadful problems with thrush. Since I've naturally dropped the sugar levels in my body, touching wood, I never get it. So, you know, yeast bacteria, if anybody suffers with those sort of things, are all fed by sugar. But I believe they're equally fed by artificial sugars. So, yeah, it's been an interesting week. I'm still addressing things about myself. I'm still looking into my behaviours and my practices because I want to change, because I want the freedom. But bigger than that, I do not want to go back to where I used to be. So I will continue to do this one day at a time. And today I am 581 days at target. And for me, that's like an alcoholic saying I'm 581 days in recovery, because I'm not practicing any of the old behaviours. Now I know that most of my friends that I've made over the years who are members of AA would say never, just one day at a time. And that's what I'm saying. For today, I am not practicing my old behaviours. And it's given me my life back. I actually have a life that is, I've said it before, beyond my wildest dreams. I am living today as a very different person. And I realise the bondage I was into food. When I was in the depths of it, I couldn't fully see it. In fact, I couldn't see much of it at all. I thought I had a good life. Today, I can see the wrong choices I made, the bad decisions I made, the obsessions I had. And I'm amazed that today I'm a different person. And I credit that to Slimming World. I credit that to Slimming World. It's taught me so much in the last 2 years. And I also credit it to the word choice. Because I never believed I had a choice. And today I know how to say no to food. I know how to say no to my greedy self. And I know how to make a wiser choice. But as I said, you know, this may not be relevant to you, it's just my story. And I'm not saying that what I do would work for anybody else, or that anybody else must do this, should do this, or ought to do this. I'm just telling you what is my story. I walked 28.35 miles this week, which is a moderate amount for me. Had a great week food-wise. As I said, 4 healthy extras every day, 8 sins every day. I've really, really enjoyed it. Eating a good variety of food this week. And I intend to carry on. I'm just going to do what works for me and live my life. So thanks for watching if you got to this point, and hope you've all had a good week too. If anybody has any comments or questions, please leave them below. Thanks for all of your support. We'll see you again next week. But remember, it works if you work it, won't if you don't. Cheers.